What's going on, everyone? Mr. Filmstock here. Today, we are talking with producer and founder of Postmortem Films, Darryl Postley. Please welcome Darryl to the episode. Hey, Darryl, how are you? What's going on?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So let's get right into it if you want to do that. So can you tell me a little bit about Postmortem Films and the name behind it, and how did that come about?
Well, okay. So first off, before I get started, I just want to say that we have been following you for years from you reviewing our work. Um, I just want to say on behalf of Postmortem Films that we are eternally grateful for your honest and very thought-provoking reviews. It trusts me when I say it has gone a long way, and it has mattered a great deal to us. So when it was time to take the leap from short film work to feature work, we absolutely knew we had to bring you on board to witness this with us, and
Wow.
as whichever way possible we can show you our appreciation for just riding with us and being honest with the work that we have presented you. Um, that has always gone noticed, and that has always helped us along the way in our creative process for future projects moving forward. So I just want you to understand like how important that shit really is to us, man. We are eternally grateful for that as creators and as a business. It
Thank
goes
you.
a long
Thank
way.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
yeah, of course, man. Of course. I could not start without getting that in there, man. I
Thank you.
wanted to make sure I told you that before we get any of this started. Um, uh, First, how this whole thing started, man. So I didn't join until 2017,
Oh,
but the skeleton of postmortem basically started, which sounds odd when you say it, the skeleton of postmortem. The skeleton of postmortem started in like 2015 with Pat and Jillian. They were
okay.
teenagers doing what teenagers do with a cheap camera. Um, it was from what I understand, it was just a lot of misses, a lot of attempts, but nothing really going anywhere. Um, Fast forward 2017, I just finished finally getting my feature film debut as an actor, so I was trying to get back. I was trying to continue into the acting pursuits, and I saw an audition for short film called The Question, and it was on Southern Casting Call. I reached out to Pat, met up with him in the Starbucks at Wake Forest, did the audition. He immediately said, "Hey, he thought that I was one of the best auditions there. He just didn't think I was creepy enough for the main character." So he thought I looked too likable, too adorable. So yeah, so he was like, nah, I really want you to be a part of this project though. Can you be on as a crew member, be a part of the crew? I joined the crew, had a great time. It was just this fun 1 day shoot, and I had been somehow for some reason coming back ever since to either whether it was be a part of the crew or part of the cast. And like Pat and I, we grew a friendship over time. And 2020 came. It was right around 2020. We were taking a break from. He was taking a break from directing and writing in general. Um, which that's a lie. He was still writing. He just didn't know what to do yet. But one day he hit me up and he says, "Hey man, I'm thinking about getting back into it. I want to start this whole thing over again, and let's just hit the ground running and try to just make project after project." And he pitched me the idea of the name Postmortem Films, and I was like, "Okay, where'd you get that from?" Um, Basically, during his writing binge, he was he would keep himself inspired by watching certain things. And one of them was BuzzFeed Unsolved,
Okay.
and they had this segment called BuzzFeed Unsolved Postmortem, which was like them answering fan mail,
Right.
and he for some reason loved that name, And he was like, huh. And it just stuck with him for months. So he kept going, doing his thing. And then when he was finally inspired to get back into it, that's where he got the name. And I thought it was a good name. I thought, okay, we're a horror based
Right.
business. Let's do something that sticks out. And Postmortem is it's such a gross name.
It
It,
is. Yeah.
it's a gross name, and knowing what happens in Postmortem, it's a very gross thing. But I think because of the ickiness of the word itself, it kind of helps in our favor of getting our name out there. But yeah, that's where Postmortem came
Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, because you have to stand out with horror, especially
from.
short
Yeah.
horror films, and this is one of them, and it's really, really good. So you found your unique voice with postmodern films. Now, how do you approach storytelling differently than the major big budget film studios?
So, um, Pat and I are huge professional wrestling fans.
Me too.
Oh, perfect, perfect. So you will definitely understand, like, when it comes to writing our stories, the truth of the matter is that so many stories have been done before.
Right.
What what really brings people in outside of like the vibe or the aesthetic these days is character. We are a character driven company. What we do is we create the premise, right? We have the premise in mind. Um and we can either create, but we focus on these characters. And if you flesh out the characters before you even get to the story, you already know what decisions they're going to make, or you already know what the decisions they are, what the decisions they make, what they're going to be leading up to. Um, and that helps in terms of story building, storyboarding, and even writing the script. That makes it flow a lot faster. That really helps in terms of our work ethic and our pace and how we've been keeping up with making so many projects over so many in such a short amount of time.
Right.
Technically, in like 5 years, we made what, seven of our projects. That's unheard of for especially on a local level. So what we did was we would think of these characters and we would just put them in the situation. And so long as we know what these characters are and what we expect them to do, the story typically ends up writing itself.
Okay. So what was the hardest short film to work on?
Oh God. Um for me personally, it was um host.
Okay.
And that was because first that was our first real taste of getting a more industry standard approach to the filmmaking process. So it's like, you create your own method, you create your own way, your own language, your own style of work in the films that you make when you're an amateur. But at the end of the day, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to start integrating the language in the industry that's already been known and been passed down for generations. And so it was a huge culture shock for us. But, I think we really persevered and um, did took it upon ourselves to say, okay, we're not some chumps, we're not some amateurs. We're gonna take this head on. We're gonna make our mistakes, but damn it, we're gonna learn from it.
Right.
And so that was our largest crew at the time, our largest schedule at the time. It was truly fascinating. There was a lot of stuff in regards to that filmmaking process that we have never done before, and we're truly grateful from it because we learned a heck of a lot from that. For
Okay.
real, that was probably the biggest one for me.
Nice. That's always a good thing to figure out what you can do and what you can't do with certain short films, or even if it's like 7 to either 20 minutes long. It all
Yeah,
it all differs for sure.
yeah, for real. And it was one of our longest projects at that time. It was our longest project at that time.
Wow.
So yeah, it was. It's crazy how something in the realm of almost 20 minutes can feel like a lifetime of work to get done.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, and then we said, we should do a feature film, really. So,
Now, speaking of features, what inspired Sugarcane? Can you give us a little teaser of what we can expect without giving too much away?
um, so what inspired Sugarcane? Funny enough, I came up with the idea of the premise of the world of Sugarcane, um, sort of on this idea of a commentary on a webcam culture, live streaming culture, this whole idea of how far we're willing to go against our own humanity for validation and approval, or even as simple as just money. Um, and then I pitched the idea to Pat and Gabe Howard, who's a co-writer of Sugarcane. Um, I had pitched the idea to them. They loved the idea. Now the question is, okay, well, what more can we build off of this premise? And um, from there, we were thinking about, the deep dark web and the dangers of it, and like, um, we wanted to make something uncomfortable, so that way conversation of any kind could get started. And then that's when we thought about, um, human trafficking and how that has impacted our culture as well, not just on how important and how serious it is, but how disregarded it is. So we thought, okay, if we can take something like that and turn it into a surreal, extreme experience to where people think to themselves, "Oh, this can't be real. This can't be real," but it is real. It is a thing that exists. Um, so we went and built that from there, and so you know to kind of tease what to expect, you're gonna expect some uncomfortable truths
Right.
about how neglect and loneliness and um you know the failures of empathy in society, and how that can translate into you doing desperate and hurtful and dangerous things, not only to yourself and to other people, and how that affects them. That's the best way I can tease it. And you get to, for certain characters you see it happening in real time, and for other characters you see it how they're rebuilding or trying to rebuild from that. um and so that's the best way I can tease
Right.
on that for you.
That's always a good thing, like, without giving too much away.
Yeah, yeah.
So the casting process, what was that like for Sugarcane? And did you have anybody in mind for the lead roles, or did any auditions surprise you? And how long was that process?
um I wish I could put a timeline on the casting process, because it felt like it 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 felt like it was moving fast but not fast at the same time. It was a weird thing. I think it took about a good 3 4 months. But um when we, and Pat could definitely attest to this a lot better than I can, when we create these characters, when it comes to the writing process, Pat always has a face in mind.
Okay.
He always had we keep talent on a Rolodex. So we always tell people, for inspiring actors, like, don't 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 feel too much of a loss if you don't get picked for the next film, because there's a huge chance that the studio is going to keep your name on file, because we may have loved your audition, but we just didn't have a fit for you at the time.
Right.
And that's like a real true story of how Postmortem works as far as like our casting process. We have faces in mind, and we reach out to those that talent, and they'll hit us up with audition. And if our suspicion, if our expectations are met, we're like, okay, that we knew that's what they were there for, then we bring them on board for the part, particularly the leads. But then for everyone else that needs to fill in, we do open casting calls and reach out to um, other talent or other people with resources. Hey, do you have anybody in mind? And they'll send people our way. And if they don't fit, it's okay. We keep them in our Rolodex. We always keep them in a Rolodex. So, for someone like Michael Mao, who plays Arthur, um, he was somebody that had caught our attention for quite a bit. And it was one of those things where Pat was like, if I'm going to bring a talent like him on, I got to have something
Right.
worthwhile for him. So, creating the character of Arthur, Pat knew that that was something that someone of Michael's caliber can tackle. And once he fed it to him, he bit onto it and he took it to a whole nother level beyond our expectations. So we knew we had the right guy. Um, Josie, you know, legacy talent for Postmortem. As far as we have a very close relationship with Josie, and we knew that we needed someone who could truly. We knew somebody. We needed somebody who had the um, ability to carry the emotion, so much emotional weight. And stellar performer, amazing actress. So we knew that, and um, for Damien, that was probably the one where Damien was probably the role that we were going through the most of auditions, and there was something about Kellen's audition that was like it felt natural. It felt real. It felt very human. Um, and so we knew, and him and Josie have known each other before, so we needed to bring someone on who can keep us down to earth, especially during the hard emotional moments,
Right.
and also be a great person to work off of with our lead actress. So bringing Kellen on board, we thought he was the perfect man for the job, and our suspicions were true. Him and Kellen and Josie started hanging out together, started working together, doing character work, and you know, from the days where I was doing character work with them to the first day on set, we knew like these two they were moving and acting like they've known each other their whole lives. And it was truly that was Mari and Damien. That was beautiful that we got to see that. We were like, oh, perfect casting. Um, and then for Lacey to play Phoebe, we knew that Lacey wanted a challenge. She really wanted to test her limits as an actor. Um, you know, it's one of those things where, and it's kind of a general thing for us. Like a lot of talent likes to work with us because they like to be challenged and they like that we create challenging characters to attempt to tackle. So you know, for Lacey, it was a no brainer. She wanted, we've known Lacey for years, and you know, she's always kept it. Lacey and her family, they've always kept in touch with us, and you know, we finally had something. We were like, hey, we might have something for Lacey. It's a huge step.
Right.
It's a very big. It's a huge weight to carry. For the type of character, it's completely out of your ordinary. And she was like, no, this is mine. Like she knew it. And from the audition onward, she took on such a huge emotional toll and a huge um, she carried a lot of weight for that role, and we're just glad that it translated and it paid off for her and for us in the film. But yeah, no, it's as far as like the rest of the casting process goes, it's usually people we've met before or people that have we done projects with before because we like bringing people back with us. There's so much great talent that you know especially if you enjoy working with somebody, why not bring them back with you? You want to keep them in mind when you work on other stuff. So you're like, hey, we have something here for an officer. Oh, what about Kevin J. Stone, somebody who's been around with us for years, who we love working with? Let's bring him back on for this here, which is what we did. That's kind of how we do things as far as talent is concerned. It's a beautiful dynamic to have, especially when you're in the indie scene and trying to build up, and take yourself to the next level. You want to bring with you the people that you enjoyed working with.
Yeah, especially that you know and you have that connection with. This way, it makes things easier for the filming process.
Yeah, absolutely. And they understand what you're doing. You understand how they work, and it's like a match made in heaven. It's a great partnership to have.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you said that there were some challenges. What was the most unexpected challenge or hurdle you faced while working on Sugarcane?
I would say it was the climactic third act.
Okay.
All of the whole
The
thing.
whole thing.
I wish I can explain to you. Um, I'll just put it to you like this. We have had to change the ending based on our environment and our circumstances and our situation of Sugarcane
Wow.
probably about 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
It's I don't want to give away the well, you've seen the movie, so I can't
Right.
really give you the details of like exactly what it was, but like well, you'll understand what I mean. But like there, such a big thing of the stuff that we had to do in the woods.
Right.
There were so many opportunities where it just wasn't going to work. And somehow we managed to get it to work. Um, there's this huge climactic scene in the end from our protagonist and antagonist. That was also something where, you know, it could have gone either way at that point, and we managed to just pull through and get it done and lock in. That was. But I will say the reason why they're the most challenging was because um, pretty much the entire time that we were working on the third act of the entire film, it was we had an idea, we had a plan, something happened, we had to improvise, we had to change things around very last minute. And it was always these things that were beyond our control. We thought the film gods were cursing us. We just didn't know what was happening. But I think what ended up happening was that it ended up becoming what we had on paper versus what we ended up building for the third act on screen was, in our perspective, so much so much more eye-opening, a much greater experience, just so much more beauty behind it. We never would have what you see. We're like this. No, we never thought about doing it like this, but thank God we did. That's sort of how it is. That whole third act so challenging, and it's so sweet when you watch it because it's like we did that. We pulled that off. There's so many challenges with that one, but we managed to pull through as a team.
That feeling of accomplishment when you see it at the end is always a good feeling.
Oh yeah, yeah. There were so many opportunities that this thing could have fell through in the third act,
Was it like
but
story related, weather related that stopped things?
it was weather related. Um, Definitely, yeah. There was quite a few weather related ones, and then there was um issues with um certain beats in the story not working,
Right.
that we came across. There was limitations on time.
Mm.
All of those things. It felt like, you know, it was. I think it was something that we had to experience to really test our limits, and we pushed through, we persevered, and honestly, our third act came out a hell of a lot better than we had expected or anticipated or even tried to attempt, the first time when we were trying to get things done. And then I think those pivots and those audibles that we made worked in our favor and made a much better film.
That's always a good thing. And behind the scenes, do you have a favorite memory that stands out while you were on the set?
Um, so I, this goes to show you the type of people we are as a team, how our leadership works, how our camaraderie works. In the third act, there's this big climactic battle in the third act, and for that scene, we had to do it on the fly.
Wow.
Um, So once we got everything we needed, I'm first assistant director on set. So, once we were getting everything that we were getting out the way, I went over to Pat. I leaned over to his shoulder. I said, all right, brother, what do you need? And he looked at me. He goes, I need everybody out I need everyone except me talent out the room right now. I said, bet. Told everyone get out the room. We all got out of the set for like a good 30, 40 minutes. Came back down. They had choreographed and went through step by step everything that they needed to do
Wow.
for that battle for that that conflict in the third act. They had to do it on they did it in less than like 30, 40 minutes.
Wow.
And then we got in, and I just remember we were locked in. Like everyone was on the same page. Everyone was like, we knew that this was it. We had ourselves prepped and ready to go. And we just kept boom, 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 shot after shot after shot after shot. And we went through 23, 24 different angles throughout the whole thing, going beat by beat. It was beautiful. It was like poetry in motion. I don't think I've ever seen us move so cohesively, so like such in unit. Everyone was like packed in, ready to go, and like locked in and trying to get this thing done. And we knew what was at stake here, and it was poetry in motion at that moment. It was a beautiful sight to see. That was definitely. It was so late. We were all so tired. It was getting cold. But for some reason, we just knew like this is it. We're ready to lock in and get this thing done. And um, it was beautiful, man. That was my favorite moment.
It's always a good. And then when you see the final result, you're like, yeah, we did that. We
Oh
did
yeah.
that.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy. It's crazy because you see it and you're like, and then all of a sudden you remember where you were in the room when it happened. You
Right.
were like, yeah,
True.
like we were all behind that camera, quiet as a mouse, getting that shit done. We were just, but it was beautiful, man. From the performers to the crew, everyone was locked in, man. It was awesome.
So if you could sum up sugarcane in just 3 words,
Oh
what would
man,
they be?
if I could sum it up in 3 words, I would say unexpected, uncomfortable,
Okay. It's a good one.
and, and I would also say masterclass.
Hey, I like that. It's a good one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think this thing has a masterclass of talent work. So I would put that in there.
That's
Yeah,
always good. Yeah, 3 words. So unexpected, uncomfortable, and masterclass.
yeah.
I love it. All right, Daryl, this is my final question to you, and I like to ask this about any producer, director, filmmaker. For aspiring producers and filmmakers, what's one piece of advice you would give that you would like to give everyone out there?
My one piece of advice would be this entire journey, this entire career, that path that you choose as a producer and a filmmaker and a writer, director, all of those big hats that you have to wear. It is a consistent battle of fighting for your worth and your value. Not just the film's worth and value, but your own personal worth and value. And it's going to be challenged constantly over and over and over again. No matter how far high up you go, it is always going to be challenged. So you better come in understanding your worth and your value at every step of the way. Because the only person that can really fight for it is yourself. And that is the bottom line of it all. None of this would have been possible if we didn't have that value of within ourselves. Um, that's where all the resourcefulness came from. That's where all the ideas came from. That's where all the strong relationships came from. That's where all the opportunities that we have taken advantage of, where all the losses that we've turned into lessons, where all the wins we've taken a step back and we made sure that we praised and held ourselves and congratulated ourselves for. At the end of the day, you know, the rest of the world in the industry, they're thinking about their bottom line. When it comes to being a creative and being a leader, you have to be sure of your own worth and your own value. You have to fight for it constantly. And as long as you're willing to fight for it constantly, you will get what you're fighting for. You will get it. And you will reach that finish line, and you will be proud of yourself in the outcome. That is my advice at the end of the day. That was the biggest lesson for me and for honestly everyone in Postmortem, was that this was a challenge of our self-worth and how we valued ourselves. And that's how this film got made, and that's how this film is going to be successful.
There you have it, everyone. Darryl giving you what you wanted to know about being an aspiring producer and filmmaker. Darryl, I want to thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure interviewing you. Great stuff, insight about Postmortem and Sugarcane.
Thank you so much, man. It's great, and it's finally great to finally meet you and talk to you.
Yes, likewise, likewise, and hopefully we do this again down the road.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Stay in touch, brother.
You too. All right, everyone. That was Darryl Postley, producer and founder of Postmortem Films. I'll leave a link in the description box below to all of the Postmortem social media accounts, as well as the social media accounts to Darryl's pages. And be on the lookout for Sugarcane. It'll be out in 2025. And, let's just say, as Darryl said it, unexpected, uncomfortable, and a master class. I'm Mr. Filmstock, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you later. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.